Healthcare is constantly evolving, and one particular area that's changing is where surgeries are performed. As opposed to having surgery at a traditional hospital, there is a shift to having more surgeries done at more efficient and less costly surgery centers. And soon a brand new surgery center will open in Brooklyn Park. It will be located along the growing Highway 610 corridor off the Zane Avenue exit. The number and type of surgeries that will be performed here are significant.
It will include, ear, nose, throat, general surgery, orthopedics, urology, really a full spectrum.
Dave Slowinski with Allina Health says the cost of these surgeries is typically up to 50% less than in a traditional hospital setting. It will also help free up Allina hospitals such as Mercy Hospital and Coon Rapids to do the more complex surgeries. And if you see more surgery centers like this, there's a reason. The growing senior population is one factor, another is market driven.
I think we can all agree that healthcare is too expensive. The experience is often fragmented and not what we would want as patients.
Slowinski says the shift to surgery centers is a solution to that. The Brooklyn Park location will open early next year. Allina Health and Surgical Care Affiliates, a division of Optum, will operate the center. That partnership also either operates or owns surgery centers in Plymouth and in Maple Grove. Beginning next week, the Osseo School District will no longer require teachers and staff to wear both face shields and masks if they choose not to. In a voluntary survey as of Friday morning, 1,200 staff members say they've received the first dose of the vaccine, which is about a third of all employees. A little more than 700 say they've already scheduled or received the second dose. School staff say the data will help the district understand if they need to take extra safety measures.
Well, if we have the majority of our staff vaccinated, we may be able to not require the face shield and instead do 2 masks or simply 1 mask, which is helpful because it's hard for staff to articulate with students. They have to get in close for students to hear. And so we'd like to be able to keep that social distancing of 6 feet.
Because there have been some reported reaction to the second dose, the data also helps the district proactively get substitute teachers or staff. The New Hope Police Department has rolled out another way in which residents can communicate. A new app called Tip 411 allows residents to submit anonymous crime tips.
We hear all the time that people didn't call us for several reasons, whether it be they didn't think it was important, they didn't want to waste our time, they didn't want anybody to know they called. And this is a great way to kind of circumvent that.
There are 3 ways to leave an anonymous tip: by text message on the New Hope Tip 411 page or download the New Hope Tip 411 app. Officer Calio stresses that if you have an emergency, you still need to call 911 because Tip 411 is not being monitored 24/7. Advancements in medicine are rooted deeply in the Twin Cities, and now there's a way to learn about some Twin Cities medical pioneers. In today's Weekend Showcase, Neil Persley takes a look at what's new at the Hennepin History Museum.
The Hennepin History Museum near Washburn Fair Oaks Park in Minneapolis is now open again to the public and boasting 2 new additions.
The exhibit is called Local Heroes. And we were inspired last year. We had, thanks to COVID, a hole in our exhibit calendar. And so Alyssa Thede, our curator, was racking her brains trying to find out what we could do to fill this slot. And she had the inspiration to look back at the older history of Hennepin County and look at some of the foundations of our healthcare system that we enjoy today.
Museum curator Alyssa Thede sifted through information in the archives of the museum and worked with the Hennepin Medical History Center, procuring artifacts to bring an exhibit which tells stories you never knew about healthcare pioneers in Hennepin County.
Frances Mackay was an African-American woman who wanted to be a nurse, and she applied to go into the U of M nursing school, and they wouldn't let her in.
This was in 1929, so Frances made her appeal to the Minnesota legislature and won, becoming the first black nursing school student to graduate, and at the top of her class, no less, from the U of M. There are many fascinating stories connected with developments in the healthcare industry that all have a Hennepin County connection, and you can spend as little or as long digging into them as you'd like. The other new addition to the History Museum is a figure maybe familiar to the residents of western Hennepin County.
I think one of the things that's really great about the History Museum is that the better we understand and connect with history, the better decisions we're able to make.
Anderson recently won the District 7 seat on the Hennepin County Commission and then joined the Hennepin History Museum Board as their latest ex officio member.
We learn from our past.
The museum is limiting its capacity, so check the museum's website for hours and ticket availability. And one final reminder, if you haven't caught the Terrace Theater exhibit yet, it's still on display upstairs, and it's a must-see for Robbinsdale history buffs. For Weekend Showcase, Neil Persley, CCX News.
There's a new venue in Maple Grove that caters to parents ready to get out of the house with their young children.
As soon as you have a baby, like your choices of going to places goes from this to this. Especially places that are really meant for adults and kids. There's not really many of them.
But now there is. Here's a look inside MiniSota Play Cafe, which is now open. It is located in the shops at Arbor Lakes right by Biaggi's Italian restaurant. The indoor play space lets parents have a cup of coffee and talk while children play. Families get 2 hours of play after they check in. You can find their hours on Google and safety and wellness information at minnesotaplaycafe.com.